Hello there. I have an unexpected off day today, so this is my review of Affair Episode 1 and general ramblings about adaptations of GL novels from books to drama series. And for those who need to ask, why do you do this analysis? Why don't you just enjoy the show? I'm doing this for my mental health. So wag kang ano, okay? Go doodle or diddle with yourself. Just don't ruin my parade. So, episode 1, The Cold Open, Chef's Kiss. Perfection! For those who don't know what a cold open is, it's a scene that comes before the title sequence. So, if a drama or an episode starts with it gets into the action right away, it goes into a scene right away, it's called a cold open. And then after that, they play the title sequence, the title, the theme song, and the who is starring in the show and so forth. So anyway, the cold open. I see some commenters in the video in YouTube that were shocked and surprised and excited and thrilled, but actually it is book accurate. But I just want to disclaim that I am not a purist. I understand that some things have to change for budget or technical reasons when you translate a novel on screen, but there's something soothing about reading something, seeing it in your head, and then seeing it on screen the way it should be. Like in the novel, the cold open really sets the tone of the story. Look Me and Sonia expressed that scene so well. It had the right tone of desperation and obsession. That was almost 2 decades of bottled up feelings coming to the fore. It's not just the 13 years that they were apart. I mean, something almost happened to them when they were 17. So they have been falling in love since their childhood. So in that moment that Juan Viva was being a red flag and just ignoring reason and logic, and Plang was trying to make her understand that this was a selfish decision, but she didn't care. That's almost a decade of foreplay. Juan Viva has been patiently waiting for Plang to realize his feelings since they were teenagers. I mean, she has been aware that she was in love with Plang since they were kids, which is a bit surprising because between the two of them, Juan Viva is talented on the left brain side, more on the logical and mathematical side. And Plank, of course, with her musical abilities, is more of a right brain type of girl. But it was Juan Viva who had the self awareness to realize first that how she saw Plank wasn't just based on friendship, that she was actually in love with Plank. And throughout the episode, like in the novel, you really see that One Viva is always asking Blank to question her feelings, like why are you being possessive, but you're trying to find me a boyfriend? Like, why do you seem to be jealous when you say that I have to be independent? And this is also the reason why I believe, at least for me, that One Viva is the top in their relationship. I know that it doesn't really matter if you're top or bottom or something in the relationship, but for discussion's sake, the real driver of the relationship is Juan Viva. If it was left to Pleng, I don't think they'd ever get together. Even if all the tragedy didn't happen to them, if it was left to Pleng alone to make decisions about their relationship, it would go nowhere. And I think the reason why Pleng is more conservative or more conventional in her thinking, even though it is painfully apparent that she has deep feelings for Juan Viva, and that she's trying to deny herself, is because of her upbringing. Uh, People, at least from my observation, people who come from a well-to-do family, or they have a comfortable childhood, uh, a pretty complete family that is generally happy. I mean, all families have some sort of problems in the end, and Plank's family is no exception, which we will find out later on. But I meant that the way Plank was raised, she had a very comfortable and steady background. So there was really no need for her to question her role as a daughter, to question her role in society. So if you're raised that way, there is a tendency to be more conservative and not really look beyond what is expected of us in society. So even though she was harboring confusing feelings towards her friend, Juan Viva, you could see that She didn't want to accept it herself. I mean, even when they met again, she didn't want to acknowledge that what she was feeling was romantic. She was still trying to rationalize that this is something that could happen in a close friendship, even though us as readers already know that this is beyond friendship. But because she really didn't have to question, I guess, the normal or what society expects us to have as a normal relationship, she couldn't acknowledge those feelings, and that is really the biggest barrier for playing, which we will see later on in the plot twist. So between the two of them, one Viva is really, she's not only genius level intelligent, she's also more open-minded. She has a more flexible view on relationships, on the human condition, and because of that flexibility, that's the reason why, she was able to hold on and believe that eventually playing would come back to her. She, I guess, had the fortitude because of her mindset to see that it was possible. And just on an off tangent, this is one of the reasons why I appreciate the way that Nine Star Studios portrayed Dr. Juan Viva in Blank the series, that was played by the actress Nathalie. So in Blank the series, Dr. Juan Viva was like a catalyst for Arnong and Nung's relationship, and the cause of jealousy for Anong. But when she came through in the end and she defended Arnung's relationship, Kunung's relationship to their friend group during art class to the other doctors, that was, even though that's not really in the novel Blank the series, that was a very accurate portrayal of Dr. Juan Viva's character. When they did that, I could completely understand and see that, yes, this is true to Dr. Juan Viva in the books, that she had that kind of kindness and ability to understand that relationships are complex. Because in her own life, it was really, in her own life, it's chaos. And she understood that because later on in the plot twist, she had to go through some ideas that are unconventional, and then later on she was able to debunk it anyway. But she had to go through some ideas to sort through her feelings if she would still be able to go through the relationship if that plot twist was true. So I think in that stage, because that's around the stage wherein the way she was portrayed in Blank, I think Pleng has not yet come back into her life, although by the timeline, it's actually wrong. Pleng should already be with Dr. Juan Viva at the time that Blank the series started. But anyway, at that point in her life, she had gone through the shock of the plot twist. And she was already able to accept in herself that she is not willing to let go of Pleng if that plot twist was true. And that is the reason why I guess it widened her horizons and was able to understand and accept Arnong and Nung's relationship. That the, because the Arnong and Nung's biggest barrier was their age gap. So she was able to accept that she can't really define how we love other people, and we can't really judge on the surface what the relationship, what how um, our Nong and Nong's relationship came to be. So she was able to have the open mindedness to accept that this type of love is also possible. Or I may have gotten the timeline wrong on when Viva was able to do the thing to debunk the plot twist. But regardless of that, I still think that it is in line with Juan Viva's character to have the intelligence to accept unconventional relationships. But going back to Change 2561's production, I just really love that they're not doing anything experimental. They're just following the book. And really, as someone who already loves the love story between Lang and Juan Viva, I just want to see it translated on screen. I just want to see the scenes that I had in my head on screen. That's all I ask for. Even the dialogue was almost word per word the same. But you can really see the quality of the production team and the skill of the scriptwriter in being able to have a quick pace but still be able to efficiently tell the story, and even adding a few scenes for better storytelling and foreshadowing. But it didn't feel heavy, it didn't feel obtrusive. So they were able to naturally add scenes that were not in the book just to make the story make sense later on and for everything to fit in the 8 episodes that they have in that limit, within that limit. And on that note, I just noticed something that I have been wondering about, and that is interesting for me personally and professionally, is what are the stipulations in the contract for the adaptations of Chow Planoy's novels? Because, and I'm only comparing this based on what 3 or 4 adaptations now for Chow Planoy versus Minam's one adaptation, which is The Secret of Us. Because and let me just explain. So for Chow Planoy's novels into dramas, for those who have read the novels and the dramas, we can see that most of the novel is there. And we're going to get into Dream later on, but generally, Gap Blank Affair so far in episode 1, they have just lifted most of the story and the dialogue from the book and the characteristics of um, the characters, meaning their stuff like their cars and so forth, or their professions and their background story or whatever. Most of the scenes, when it's from a Chow Planoy book, they just translate it on screen. But for Minam, and I've said this before, 80% of the book is gone. What's really just left is the essence of the characters, and of course the main highlights of the story. For example, in The Secret of Us, how they met, not completely accurate, but yeah, they met abroad, and how they broke up, except for Dr. Tan being there with them in Europe, and later on, Dr. Falada's mom being there for her in Europe, flying out to Europe, and the rest of the manipulation and some of the details. At least the main point of how they broke up was the same, but the rest of it, most of the scenes, actually all of the scenes, except their breakup and how they hooked up again, was almost the same. But the rest of it was gone. Even when they got back together, when Falada was drunk, that was not the scene. That was not the setting of how they got back together. The only thing that was accurate there was that Falada was drunk and that Ern took her home. So, but the rest of it, even how they got back together, how Falada's mom was able to accept their relationship, it's completely different from the book. In fact, I don't remember a scene that was exact to the book, to the drama series. They completely changed it. But that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy it, and I'll get to that later on. But let's go back to adaptations. So Chow Punoy must have a stipulation in her contract when they agree to adapt her books to not change it much. Maybe for Dream, and I think this is one of the reasons why Dream changed its name to My Marvelous Dream Is You, is because of how much they changed it, timeline wise. Because what they really did with Dream, they really experimented with the presentation. They began, in my opinion, at an awkward point in their relationship without a lot of backstory, which is not how Chaponoy does it, because Chaponoy in her storytelling really builds up, and she likes to start from either childhood or how they met from the beginning to show how the relationship builds up and to give a rationale to their dynamic. But the way My Marvelous Dream Is You was set up was that they began at the point that the one was already starting in her acting career. And then she was acting or behaving in an erratic manner that really did not give first time viewers, those who are unfamiliar with the story, a reason on why she was being very possessive and jealous for Kim Han. So, but still, the elements, the basic elements of the story is there. It's just jumbled in a confusing manner. So it could be that because the script of My Marvelous Dream of You diverged so much from the book that they had to change the title because it was going far from how Chow Planoy wrote it. Because, and just a little, I guess, teaching point regarding copyrights. For copyrights, you could, I forgot the technical term, you could assign your rights to someone else. You could give adaptation rights to someone else. You can even sell all of your rights. I mean, you could divorce yourself from the decision making of your work completely by selling it completely to someone else. But what always remains are moral rights. So, as a creator, when you create something, you will forever have moral rights to it, and that goes back to, and the reason why you have that is reputational. Well, largely reputational. Of course, you create it. It's always going to be tied to your name. It's always going to be associated to you. So, if you sold it off to someone else and said that from now on you have complete decision making powers on that work, I will no longer intervene in it. Here I am. I'm signing it in the contract. That's yours now. That's your baby now. If they use it in a way that it now ruins your reputation, you have the right as the creator to say stop. You can't do that because okay, I gave you full rights, but it doesn't mean that you could I guess desecrate it or use it in such a way that it already comes back to me negatively. So anyway, it could be something in the in their negotiation and how they negotiated how it was going to be adapted that Idol Factory was forced to change the name of Dream. Anyway, this is just me speculating, but I think there is something in Chow Planoy's agreements that really keeps to the letter of how she wrote her novels. Unlike Minam, who, and I don't know how Channel 3 negotiated it with the author, and how she's going to go forward in her future agreements, because Poisonous Love is coming in, but it's going to be done by another production team, albeit it's still going to be under Channel 3, but it's still another production team. It would be interesting to see if Minam gives like a like she allows an open book with how they adapt her stories. Like you can do whatever, just credit me in the end, but you can change the story as much as you want, so on and so forth. It's possible that Minam is more open to that, but Chao Panoy is more restrictive in how her stories are adapted. At least based on the one drama that I've seen from Minam that was adapted versus Chao Panoy's novels, which are largely keeping to the timeline, the plot, and the scenes as was written in the books. So, and let's go to the Secret of Us. I really enjoyed that drama. It was the way I felt was, and I'm sorry for the reference. It's like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, wherein there are a lot of other universes, other versions of you. For me, it was like experiencing Falada and Ern's story again in a different version. I could still see the characters from the book, less spicier, but still the same characters from the book. But it's like in a different multiverse. So I just accepted that and like thought to myself that I'm just enjoying the relationship again in a different story form, in a different presentation. So my appreciation of the Secret of Us novels and Dr. Falada and Ern there is different from how Channel 3 portrayed them. But I enjoyed both immensely and equally. And I didn't think that the drama series was ruining the story or that it was too divergent and too unacceptable to follow the Ernst characters. So I could I could accept adaptations like that if it was done well. Unlike, and I'm sorry if you hate me for this, but I really did not enjoy My Marvelous Dream Is You because not because it didn't have a lot of intimate scenes, which I wouldn't be able to enjoy The Secret of Us if I was looking for scenes like that, or even there's this Japanese GL. The title is not accurate, but the gist is the woman who likes to cook and the woman who likes to eat. God, I forgot the Japanese name. But anyway, that Japanese drama had no no physical scenes between the two actresses or the two characters ever. Like the after 2 seasons of nothing, they just hugged and kissed at I believe it was the very last episode or the second to the last episode. That's how slow burn it was, and I completely enjoyed it. It wasn't it didn't need to be sensational at all for it to be romantic, is what I'm saying. So if I was able to enjoy a story like that, I really didn't need what they were selling in the trailer because when the trailer came out for My Marvelous Dream Is You, there was a point there, I think it was minute 21 or so. No, not 21. 1 minute and 21 seconds or 21 seconds into the trailer. There's this most played spicy scene that really set some high expectations for certain stuff in the trailer for the drama. And I guess some fans were disappointed because I guess they were, I wouldn't say misled, but the trailer kind of was, it oversold something from the drama that wasn't there. And really, that was just, if I remember, because I watched it sporadically, because I honestly, the whole of it, I just could not stomach how they butchered the book. But I guess it set a different tone from what fans were expecting, and that's where the disappointment of the fans were largely coming from, because they expected, it to be less of a slow burn. At least for those who have not read the book, from the comments that I were seeing, they didn't expect it to be that slow of a burn. But for me, as a person who read the novel, my disappointment or my dissatisfaction with the adaptation was coming more from what they did with the timeline of the book, because or into the drama, because it simply did not make sense. One, and then two, I felt that the stuff that some of the, I'm sorry to say, some of the stuff that the younger viewers were found exciting, like the possessiveness and the jealousy, that's not very healthy. That's not that's not a good lesson to be excited about that, to be possessive and jealous of someone without the backstory. Although eventually they gave the backstory, and even me as the reader, I already know the backstory, so I knew where the one was coming from. But presenting that without any backstory to someone who doesn't know the one's motivations, and they still found that acceptable and exciting, that is not good if you translate that to real life. That's not good if you expect that or accept that in your own relationships in real life. In fact, it's dangerous. If regardless of gender, regardless of how long your friendship has been, if someone was from Kim Han's point of view, because she doesn't know that the one was in love with her, from Kim Han's point of view, when she was thinking that it was a one-sided love, it's not acceptable to accept that type of control from someone just because you're in love with them. There's a fine line between abuse and love. So if you're already at the point that they're controlling your career and controlling who you see, who you're friends with, controlling who you work for, and you're already an adult, that's in real life. That's not love. That's an abusive relationship. But in retrospect, if we look into Idol Factory's previous production, Gap the series, there is already signs that their mindset is less in keeping to how the novel was written. They have less fidelity with the plot points in the novel when they do their adaptation. Because if you've read the book, you know that how the story ended, at least how Sam's grandmother came to accept their relationship and what was the turning point, and how more proactive Sam was in getting back with Mon is completely different from the drama series. So, and this is a heavy spoiler, it took Sam being almost SA'd by Kirk for Sam's grandmother to finally reject Sam getting married to Kirk. And in fact, Sam's grandmother beat up, or rather slapped some sense into Kirk, and she could do that because, of course, she was very rich, and she was of a very high status, that she wasn't afraid of any, legal repercussions in hurting Kirk. That's what it took for her to finally let Sam be free and get back with Mon if she wanted to. So the way that they revised Gap from the book, and since Gap was very successful, that really, I think, is the reason why they went to town with My Marvelous Dream Is You. It's because maybe they thought that, oh, this was very successful, so let's just completely experiment, let's completely do over the timeline of Dream, for whatever reason that suited the production team. But for me, it didn't translate well. As a viewer, the way they presented it did not make sense to me. And also to a lot of the viewers, regardless if they read the book or not. It's just some things did not make sense. Of course, it worked for some people. Some people found it exciting, but for me, the tone really was wrong. The lessons were wrong, and that's taking out what they did to the timeline. I mean, I could accept that they jumbled it, but only if it made sense. Only if you could follow the thread of the one and Kim's relationship in a healthy manner, that you could understand why they were drawn to each other. But I felt that the way they did it, it didn't portray a healthy relationship, and it was teaching a lesson that may be destructive in real life. And also, just a little side note, one thing that I really did not like was that the moms did not really get together. Like, it was implied that the one's mom pulled back and like moved away, because she felt that it was wrong to make a move to Kim Han's mom. But actually, in the book, they got together, and they were together up until Kim Han's mom had cancer and died. So for me, it felt like, why not give them that happy moment in their life, because they were able to fulfill their feelings for each other. They got together. So I just could not understand why they had to portray it as something wrong. That was something for the one's mom to be guilty of, when in fact it was consensual, and they had a loving relationship up until when Kim Han's mom died of cancer. So it's just a little thing that I felt they could have just given to the fans, and I did not understand why they had to make that plot line sad. Among other than the other distracting plot lines that really did not drive the story forward, that they added there for I don't know for what reason. There's really it just seemed directionless at some points, and it really strayed away from the main storyline in such a way that they were, at least I felt, they were wasting minutes into stuff that did not matter when they could have just followed the book for simplicity's sake. And the changes that they made really wasn't satisfying for me. I did not find it did not find that it added something positive to the story. So when it was announced that Blank was going to be adapted by a different studio, I wasn't too happy about that. I had some apprehension because I knew that, of course, there's going to be a shift in the tone of the production because it's a completely different crew. It's going to be a completely different approach. So I knew that it wasn't going to mesh with Idol Factory's gap. Other than, of course, I felt disappointed that I knew that Freen and Becky would most likely will not be able to cross over to another studio and reprise their roles. So as someone who already read the novel and then I already translated Freen and Becky into Sam and Mon in my head, I was not thrilled that they were going to be portrayed by other actresses when Blank the series was announced. Other than I was wondering if the changes in the plot of Gap in the drama series would result in Blank the series being disjointed from it, because I really was hoping that there's like a continuity or there's a connection between the series as it should be from the novels, which all had a connection. So when Blank came out, honestly, it was a revelation, and it was such a joy that it was adapted with so much intelligence, with so much delicacy, and I think that is largely thanks to the founder of Nine Star Studios, Miss Wan Wan. If you didn't know, she has a master's in psychology, so she really had an understanding of human relationships. She had an understanding of how to present an unconventional love story in a way that audiences would not say come to accept, but rather they did it in such a delicate manner that you understood that it wasn't a unbalanced relationship, that the power wasn't being held by just Arno, that there was a real struggle in her part to come to terms with her feelings for No. So we all know what's the biggest taboo in Blank the series, but they were able to navigate it in such a way that you understood that Nung was not disenfranchised at any moment, that she was her own person and that she was not being forced into a relationship with Arnong. She was not being manipulated in such a way that would translate into her thinking that she was in love with Arnong. We could see that she was making these decisions on her own, that her behavior was based on true feelings that were not planted in her head by Arno or Kondong. So I really appreciated Nine Star Studios' ability to not make it sensational, but in a sense that, like in a 50 Shades kind of way of like being excited for being in a certain power dynamic. It wasn't like that. You could see the tenderness of their feelings for each other and why it could be a realistic relationship, a realistic and healthy relationship, I guess. Um, is what I'm saying. I just really appreciate that Blank did not make it into another, like teacher student, the trope. Like what was that movie that was really, not good. It was a red flag. Anyway, uh, they were able to portray it in such a way that it was a healthy relationship and not one of prey and predator. So just to round off, I really hope that in the incoming GL series that will be released this year makes their adjustments based on what worked and what didn't work in the drama series that have already finished their run. I hope they take lessons from the pacing, at least the criticisms on some of the drama series when it comes to pacing, when it comes to confusing plot points, when it comes to reusing the trope of the mom being the final boss, the mom or the grandmother being the final boss of a sapphic relationship. I hope they make adjustments that will not repeat these mistakes. And on that note, I'm really excited about how GMMTV, which is, we all know, a large production company, how they will portray Chow Planoy's novels. Because at least I am hopeful and I am positive about them doing a good job, because what they did with 23.5, which is also a novel, which they made a lot of revisions from the book just to make the series larger, because if you I also have a copy of the novel, but I haven't really read through it. I just scanned through it. It really just concentrates on Ongsa and Sun's relationship. The other characters are really just very peripheral to the story, and it really just concentrated on Ongsa and Sun's feelings. So of course you it's going to feel very small and constricted if you do something, if you translate it only as that into a drama series. So they have to have supporting characters, and that's why they really hashed out some of the smaller characters from the book into more realized characters in the drama series. And because they were able to do these smart moves for 23.5, I'm very hopeful for Pluto and for Us the series that they're going to make the same intelligent decisions on them that would enhance the story and not detract from, or meander away from the story of the main characters, which is what we are watching the drama series for. We want them to get together. So hopefully, I'm not asking for them to make word for word, or a very close adaptation of the story into their drama series. But I'm hoping that if they do make revisions, that these are smart revisions that enhance the storytelling, and not just to experiment and to, I guess, add characters for the sake of making it exciting, at least in the mind of the production team. But it really doesn't add anything to the plot or the storyline. So yeah, I'm really looking for. Oh, but Change 2561 is actually associated with GMMTV, because they're broadcasting through 131. 131 is under the GMMTV group of companies. So in a way, we can see a preview of their attack in Adaptations in 23.5 and in Affair the series, because it's coming from associated production teams from the same, basically the same mindset. So in the same vein, that I'm hoping that the new production company that's going to take on Poisonous Love would have the same mindset as Channel 3 when it comes to their the quality of their production, and in how they're going to adapt Poisonous Love. So all in all, a pretty good year for GL. Uh, there's so much to look forward to, and there's very few misses. Most of them have had positive feedback from the viewers, and I'm just really happy that we are in an era that we're seeing a lot of this. Because I remember a time wherein really there were no sapphic love stories, there were no content for gay women. So yeah, I guess this is a kind of renaissance in Yuri and for sapphics all over the world, I guess. Till next time, bye.